The Cleric is one of the strongest classes in Baldur's Gate 3, so I'll be ranking all the different subclasses on a tier list from best to worst. Patch 8 introduced the new Death Domain Cleric, and even as recent as Patch 7 changed how some of the domain actions work for like the Nature Domain, which no longer costs a channel divinity to use their domain action. There's a lot of really powerful multi-classes we'll also be talking about here, but ranking these mainly on their level 12 full pure builds, because the Cleric's one of the best to go all the way up in. We're first starting off with the Death Domain Cleric, the newest one, and actually, this is pretty strong. It's strong because early game, you're going to be casting cantrips pretty frequently. This allows you to target 2 targets with a cantrip if it's a necromancy cantrip, and we actually get a few of them. So you can choose Bone Chill as your special Death Domain cantrip, and then also grab the Toll the Dead and Bursting Sinew. Toll the Dead's going to be the best choice for early game damage. The old meme about how Shadowheart can't hit anything is because this has a dexterity save, and goblins have high dexterity. Using this, which has a wisdom save, is going to give you not only higher damage, but it just makes things a lot easier to land early game. You get alright spells for your domain here, but the really big addition is the Reaper ability here and the level 2 Channel Divinity Touch of Death. This will add additional necrotic damage onto your melee attacks, and well, the Cleric isn't much of a melee attacker. This applies to things like the Inflict Wounds spell. So this does 3d10, then you do additional necrotic damage as a reaction. Now, one of my favorite mixes is actually to multi-class this. 6 levels up the Necromancer Wizard with the Staff of the Cherished Necromancy for like a spellcaster, or Blade Singer if you want to apply your Touch of the Death on your 2 melee attacks. So you can actually make this extremely strong, and use Shadowblade 2 for max damage. The domain spells at level 3 are Blindness and Ray of Enfeeblement, which are all right spells. Once we bring it to level 5, you get Animate Dead, which is great, Vampiric Touch, and Spirit Guardians is actually kind of buffed up here due to our level 6 ability, the Inescapable Destruction. What this does is it makes it so our spells ignore resistance to necrotic damage, and that includes using Spirit Guardians, because there's a necrotic version of it as well. So if you're going against enemies that are, able to reflect radiant damage, we can apply the necrotic version to them, and it'll ignore any resistances, as necrotic's one of the most resisted damage types. The reason I mentioned multi-classing with the Necromancer Wizard is you can take the Staff of Cherished Necromancy and continually keep infinite casting the level 6 Circle of Death spell, ignoring resistances. If we continue with the Cleric, however, we get Blight, which isn't the best spell. However, we do a pretty good job. It's an 8d8 necrotic damage and ignores resistances, so it's not terrible. We get our Divine Strike Necrotic, which will also ignore resistances. We also get Contagion. Now, Contagion's a weird spell because it's not good in combat. It's actually better outside of combat because this doesn't actually trigger aggro on enemies. So you can cast this, poison a target before you get into a fight, and they won't aggro unless it does apply the status on them. And also Cloud Kill. Now, there's a really cool interaction with Cloud Kill because poison damage doesn't affect our undead. And once we make our way up a little bit higher, we can actually get a spell to make our entire team immune to the damage. All clerics get their Channel Divinity, Divine Intervention there, which is a great spell to use. But once we hit level 11, Hero's Feast is extremely useful because with Hero's Feast, the Cloud Kill does not hurt our team because we can't be poisoned. And the way that Cloud Kill works is kind of odd. It actually applies whenever Cloud Kill, it's a condition and it blocks Cloud Kill's damage. So we can apply this to our team, and Cloud Kill's not normally a spell you'd get with the Cleric here, so it's very good synergy. Now, if you want to follow somewhat of a necrotic, undead kind of build, you can go with the Spirit Guardians Necrotic, one of the best spells in the game, obviously Spirit Guardians. You have Animate Dead to be able to create some zombies. There's also the Create Undead, which gives you the Mummy with 94 health, the further tank for your team. And then we also have the Cloud Kill Hero's Feast combination. There's actually some pretty decent combinations with the Death Domain. It has a strong start though, and for that reason, I'm going to throw the Death Domain Cleric into the A tier, just because the Reaper ability is really good. Level 6, when you get to the Shadow Curse lands, you ignore resistances to necrotic damage, which is also great. And then into the later game, if you're going to do a necrotic style build, you can go with that, and it's going to be pretty strong. My personal preference is, again, Wizard multi-classes with Cleric just work really well, and with that, it's a really good class for that kind of purpose. And good old Circle of Life, going from death into life. Now, Life Domain is what a lot of people run with their first playthrough because it's the most Cleric-feeling Cleric, because it's all about healing. You get Cure Wounds, Bless, and Disciple Life, so whenever you're casting a healing spell, the target regains additional health points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. That's nice. Level 2 gives us a Preserved Life, evoke a healing energy that restores your allies using your Channel Divinity. Now, there's actually an interesting way this works. It scales off your character level. So if you were to take, let's say, 10 levels of the Druid and 2 levels of the Life Domain Cleric, you still heal for 36 because it's 3 times your character level. So that's pretty cool. It's only counting ourselves as level 1 because we didn't hit the accept button here, but once we go to level up, it'll now be 6 health, and then so on and so forth. You also get the Aid and Lesser Restoration domain spells, which are normally part of the Cleric spell list, so not massive, but Aid is really good because you can give your entire team plus 25 health. Once we hit level 5, you get Revivify and Beacon of Hope, which are 2 more spells that we normally would get. Level 6, Blessed Healer. Healing others will heal you too. When you cast a healing spell of level 1 or higher, and another creature, you regain health points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. So you keep yourself alive. It's nice. There are a lot of spells that we can get that'll actually heal our team, like the Mass Healing Word. And again, here with getting 2 spells that we normally get with the Death Ward and the Guardian of Faith. Guardian of Faith is a decent spell, but the big problem is we can naturally get these, and it's not like we're fighting for preparation. Like, there's a lot of spells here that we just, we're already going to get them, not a big deal. And same thing here, Mass Cure Wounds and Greater Restoration, nothing new to the Cleric spell list. And the best healing spell in the game is Heal, level 6 spell, 70 blank out healing, which does buff your character up with the just special abilities from the Life Domain, but I honestly don't think that the Life Domain is as good as some people say. Like, I've had a lot of conversations with people and they say that the Life Domain is one of the best in the game. It's good for healing, but that's not the full story. And I actually think that some of the other classes that we got here actually shift the Light Domain up a little closer, because this is a better comparison for like the true Cleric. I'm still going to put this in the A tier though. I think the Death Domain is a little bit better because it can still do all the same healing spells. Not going to be as effective, but at the same time, it can apply cantrips to 2 enemies. It's got some ignoring necrotic resistances and cloud kill, things like that, that just put it above the Life Domain Cleric in my eyes. But let me know your thoughts. Now, my idea of a real Cleric is actually the Light Domain. This is one of the best in the game. The Light Domain gives you Burning Hands, Fairy Fire. Those are good and dandy, but you get the Warding Flare. And at level 6, Improved Warding Flare. Use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker. That's really good. It just means they're less likely to hit you, so better survivability. The level 2 gives us the Radiance of the Dawn, which can dispel magical darkness and does a good amount of radiant damage in a 9-meter radius. This is great for applying radiating orbs, and that's kind of the build that you want to go around with this. We also get some spells we don't normally get here, unlike the Life Domain, which just gives you more spells that you naturally get. We get Scorching Ray. With the Hat of Fire Acuity, we can get a +10 to our spell save DC, so we can land any spell in the game. And Flaming Sphere, that's a nice summon to have as well. As we continue to level up, we actually continue to get great spells, like the ever-powerful Fireball. This is just an awesome spell to have in your Cleric, because you can pop up Spirit Guardians, run around applying radiating orbs, and then dropping fireballs on their head. Daylight's an okay spell, not super massive, but we get Fireball, one of the most fun spells in the game, and we can upcast it. Then once we hit level 6, we get Improved Warding Flare, as mentioned, using your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attack roll. I just posted a build guide for Shadowheart, which is 6 levels of the Light Cleric and 6 levels of the Blade Singing Wizard. What's nice about that is you can use the Duelist Prerogative for 2 reactions, which means you can do Improved Warding Flare twice, or you can do 2 counter spells. So it actually is very defensive to multi-classes. Again, we're going to be focusing on the full class, but it has some great multi-classes. We get Guardian of Faith similar to the Life Domain, but we also get Wall of Fire, which is a nice concentration to hold if you're not going to be using Spirit Guardians. We also get the ability to add Wisdom modifier to our Cleric cantrips. And once we hit level 9, we get some of the best spells. We get Flame Strike, whatever, that's not a big deal. We get the very powerful Destructive Wave. Not every subclass gets this spell. It's crazy. Hits in a 9-meter radius, 5d6 of thunder, 5d6 of radiant damage, knocks them prone, possibly. Massive damage and a huge area of effect. One of the best spells in the game, and absolutely absurd. It's so good and worth using. So that puts the Light Domain above a lot of the others. If the other Clerics were able to get Destructive Wave, it'd make them really good too, but the fact that we get that with everything else that comes with the Cleric is just absurd. So if you have haste, you can pop the Radiance of the Dawn, you see there, massive area of effect, and then after that you can go ahead with the Destructive Wave, same 9-meter radius, which is just crazy. The damage that comes from this it's incredible. This is a very useful spell to have, and it'll always show off the whatever deity you chose there too, which is really cool. But very powerful spells. Light Domain is great because it got Fireball, Scorching Ray. It can stack up Arcane Acuity. Great with the Luminous Armor, the Luminous Gloves, which will apply Radiating Orbs on any radiant damage that you deal. And also the Reviving Hands are good too for healing. Any Cleric can benefit from both of these items. But if it feels like for pure healing, you're going to want to go with the Life Domain. And if you want to just go with pure debuffing and protecting your team, Light Domain is better. So with that, I'm putting the Light Domain in the S tier. It's just very, very powerful. And I've got a few different builds on it because it's so good. And next we got Trickery Domain. Now, the very unfortunate part about Trickery Domain, it doesn't have the 2024 player handbook update, which would benefit it quite a bit because this one is one of the worst. Just because our abilities aren't great and they all require concentration. So if you want to apply the Blessing of Trickster, cool. You got to hold your concentration on just giving advantage on stealth checks. There's other ways to get advantage on stealth checks, like you can go with the Cat's Grace, which will give you advantage on dex checks. There's a lot of ways to get different buffs similar to this without having to invest in this class. Even the Ranger's Pass Without Trace with a +10 to stealth is really good. Level 2 gives us our Invoke Duplicity, another Channel Divinity. Distract your enemies with an illusion within 3 meters of the illusion. Attack rolls have advantage. This is good for setting up rogues, but there's other ways. You can just stand beside your rogue and give them advantage. You don't have to use the Invoke Duplicity. I wish it worked like the player handbook version where you can cast spells from your duplicity. That would make it a little bit better at least, but no, it's just not that great. You do get Trickery Domain spells. I love Pass Without Trace. +10 to stealth checks, which is really good. You can apply this to all nearby companions. That's great for stealth, but third, concentration. And Mirror Image is nice, doesn't require concentration, just lasts for 10 turns. +9 armor class, lose 3 every time you get hit. And for domain spells at level 5, Bestow Curse and Fear. Fear's an okay spell. We get better things from other subclasses of the Cleric. And then another ability here with the Cloak of Shadows. Wrap yourself in shadows, become invisible if you're obscured. Now, this uses your Channel Divinity. There are many ways to get invisibility in this game. You can play as a Dwergar. There's the Shadow Baranzan helmet that you get in Act 1. So this isn't really as good as it's made out to be. We get more Trickery Domain with Polymorph, kind of funny spell, but not great. Dimension Door, which can be useful in certain instances. We also get Dominate Person, which is okay. And Seeming, which is garbage poo-poo. Not worth taking when there's so many ways that you can get that naturally. Yeah, there's just something about the Trickery Domain. Too many concentrations that just don't work together. If you could have all 3 concentrations at a time, then this would be good. But if you want to use the Blessing of the Trickster, you gotta apply this on someone and hold a concentration on it. If you want to use your Invoke Duplicity here, you have to hold a concentration on it. It is cool to have this like clone version of yourself. I think that this is cool. But the big problem with this is it's not going to really do much for you outside of what you could just stand beside your team to give them the bonuses to attack rolls, advantage. Yeah, there's many other ways that this could have been better, but it's okay. I'm gonna actually put this one just above the D tier. I'll put it in the C tier because it could be good as a support to a rogue kind of a Gloomstalker Ranger team, but I think that there's some better options, especially if you're going to go that route. Oh, the Nature Domain. This one actually got buffed up pretty well in patch 7, which made their level 6 ability not require Channel Divinity charge anymore, which is actually huge. We'll get to that. The Nature Domain actually has some of the best early game damage. Prior to the Death Domain coming to the game, this would have been if you're in like levels 1 through 3, this would be the highest damage that you can get because of Shillelagh or Shillelagh, depending on your pronunciation of this. What this does is it makes your club magical. It deals 4 to 11 bludgeoning and use your spellcasting ability modifier. Where this is very effective is you can take a torch, which has an additional 1d4 damage, so you get that 4 to 11 bludgeoning plus a 1d4. That's pretty good. We also get the Speak with Animals and Animal Friendship. I love Speak with Animals, great spell, but there's so many potions of it. And you learn a Druid cantrip, become proficient, animals handling, survival, and nature. You can take another cantrip, but Shillelagh is likely your best damage option. Thorn Whip is okay too. But this gives us a really reliable damage option early game. The Nature Domain also gets heavy armor proficiency, which is great early on. Level 2 ability is kind of lackluster with the Charm Animals and Plants, Channel Fey Magic to charm nearby beasts and plants. There's an okay amount of them in early game. It's a wisdom save, so it got a decent success rate, but not amazing. Level 3 gives us great crowd control with Spike Growth, so you can pop down Spike Growth, make the enemies run towards you, hit them with your Shillelagh torch. Pretty decent damage. Bark Skin is weird. Level 6, or it's takes a level 2 spell slot, concentration, and it puts the target's armor class up to 16. You probably have better options at this point anyway. Level 5 gives us some decent crowd control with Plant Growth, not requiring a concentration, slows down the enemies to a quarter. And then Sleet Storm, which stops concentrations. It's pretty good. Now this is the big benefit. Dampen Elements. When your ally gets hit with Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder damage, you can use your reaction, half the attack's damage. This previously took your Channel Divinity charge, now it does not. That's actually really good because you can reduce the elemental damage if you got the Duelist Prerogative twice, which is decent. I think that you could multi-class with the Bladesing Wizard to make like a Nature Singer. You do miss out on Grasping Vine, Dominate Beast. Dominate Beast also got buffed up. It used to cost a full action, and this is now a bonus action, always prepared, and it can drag enemies towards it. Creates difficult terrain. It's a pretty good spell in all honesty. We also then get Divine Strike, Elemental Fury. Once per turn, deal 1d8 cold, fire, or lightning damage in addition to your piercing damage you make an attack. That is also kind of cool. And once we level 9, we get Insect Plague, which we normally would get anyways. And the Wall of Stone, which is okay. That spell just... I've never found a good use for it, so Personally, I think one of the coolest abilities is the Divine Strike Elemental Fury, so you can add that cold, fire, or lightning damage onto your attacks. Cold being especially good because you can apply, if you have the Snowburst Ring, you'll create ice surfaces with it, so you can go ahead there with an attack and dampen the elements to reduce it. And the Snowburst Ring will make an ice surface below them. I don't have it currently equipped. So that ring right there, Snowburst Ring, makes it a little bit better because then we can do a little crowd control. What's funny is you can use hand crossbows too to be able to apply this, so you can go boom, create the ice surface below them, and they potentially slip. And offhand crossbow attacks are really useful since we do have good bonus action usage, but you can always just apply this if you want to apply a little extra damage. And with this ring, then you create ice surfaces as a bonus action. So that's the one, I guess, little niche use for it. There's a few different abilities that come with it. The Channel Divinity kind of sucks, so it didn't really matter using the dampen elements, but being able to do multiple dampen elements is really nice. So yeah, I'd say the Nature Domain is possibly like high B tier to low A tier. It's not as bad, but I personally, my thoughts, play a Druid if you want to get this style of play. The big thing is the dampen elements and that Elemental Strike. That's really how you can min-max this, but it's fun. Early game, good damage with Shillelagh, and it's got heavy armor. And next is the Tempest Domain. A lot of people probably understand that I love this subclass. You get a reaction, so it's a good 1-level dip if you have like a Storm Sorcerer or a Wizard and you want to add something extra. Take this for the Wrath of the Storm reaction, 2 to 16 lightning or thunder damage, and heavy armor proficiency. And it's great on a caster because you get Thunderwave, whatever. The big thing is you get these spells once we can prepare our spells after level up here. But yeah, with the Tempest Domain, you get Create Water too. So upon level up, you go into your spell book here, you know, just slap on Create or Destroy Water, which will buff up any type of spellcaster. So if you got, again, Wizard or Cleric, or Wizard or Sorcerer multi-class, that allows you to double your lightning damage and cold damage, but that's not the focus of this. The big focus here is Destructive Wrath. This is nuts. It is best utilized in a multi-class, I'll be honest, because there's not great lightning spells for this domain. But what this does is whenever you do an attack, let's say you do Chain Lightning, which has a maximum of 80 damage, you can max roll the damage. So it's a guaranteed 80 damage if you use your Channel Divinity. Why that's good? Create Water doubles that 180, or doubles the 80 into 160, making it absolutely one of the most powerful single target damage casters in the game. You get Shatter and Gust of Wind, which are okay spells. Shatter can be good on certain targets. It's actually a decent sized radius, kind of like a mini fireball early game. At level 5, you get the Call Lightning spell, which is okay. It does require concentration, so you can't use it alongside Spirit Guardians. Same thing with Sleet Storm, also requires concentration, so a few concentrations there, but you're best off multi-classing, and I'll kind of discuss that in a second. Thunderbolt Strike, when you deal lightning or thunder damage, you can push a creature up to 3 meters. So I actually love this multi-class of the Blade Singing Wizard. I posted a build on this for Shadowheart, which is kind of crazy because you got Booming Blade, which will push enemies back. Booming Blade deals a 3d8 of damage whenever the target moves. So yeah, you can actually stack a lot of damage with this. And not only that, you also can get Chain Lightning from the Wizard. We also get Ice Storm, which is one of the best spells in the game too at level 4. It's super useful creating difficult terrain. Freedom Movement is a decent one as well, but that Ice Storm is nice. And then we also get the Thunder Strike here. At level 9, we get, again, one of the best spells in the game with Destructive Wrath. They gave this to 2 of the best subclasses, kind of funny. That's just the way the D&D rules are, but very powerful spell, and Insect Plague is decent too. So as you see, we only really get Call Lightning and Destructive Wrath, and the thunder damage is only, so if we use our Channel Divinity, it only maximizes the thunder damage, so it gives us 30 guaranteed thunder, and then you can do 35 damage minimum with this if you use the Channel Divinity. So not super good. It's best in multi-class in the Wizard. Take Chain Lightning. You can take Lightning Bolt as well and upcast it. Getting that maximum damage is nuts. So we have 2 Channel Divinity charges. A 6-6 split works really well, and I've posted builds on it before. It's one of the best builds in the game. However, a full 12 levels of the Tempest Domain is also quite nice. You just miss out on some of the more powerful spells. Destructive Wave is going to be your best damage option. I actually think that the Tempest Domain is best in the game. Heavy armor proficiency, best multi-classer, lightning and cold damage are super useful. We do get the Ice Storm for crowd control. There's a lot to enjoy here. Thunder damage is nice too with the pushback, so you can get a pushback if you use your offhand crossbow attacks. So boom, you use your offhand attack, bonus action, boom, you can knock them back with the Divine Strike Thunder. It's kind of funny, sorry Halson. And next is the Knowledge Domain. This one's interesting. You get Command and Sleep, it's okay. At level 2, you get a cool ability, the Knowledge of the Aegis. Gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. This is similar to what the Gith already gets, so if you're a Gith cleric, plays different subclass probably. You also get Hold Person and Calm Emotions, which is okay, but again, these are spells that we previously would have gotten from the domain, or from being a cleric itself. Then we get Speak with Dead, okay. Slow, which is nice to get this spell here. Level 6 gives us the Read Thoughts, which basically detect thoughts until long rest using a Channel Divinity charge. And also we get Speak with Animals. These are all things that are actually readily accessible throughout the game. You can learn them from scrolls, you can find potions of animal speaking. There's an amulet of Speak with the Dead early game that you can get. You get Overlook's Freezing Sphere and Confusion, but these are almost better learned from like a bard. Add your Wisdom modifier to Cleric cantrips. Telekinesis and Dominate Person for level 9 divinity spells. I guess it's nice to get yourself the Read Thoughts and the Knowledge of the Ages. You can do this twice per long rest, so these will give you, like, if you go with Dexterity, you get Acrobatics, Sleight of Hand, and Stealth proficiency. Athletics from Strength, which is garbage, don't use that one. The best would be Charisma for Intimidation, Performance, Persuasion, and Deception, so all the face skills. Intelligence gives you Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, and Religion, which is nice. Wisdom's okay with Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Perception, and Survival. The best one being obviously the Charisma scale there, so you can go with that. Apply that nice buff until long rest. Again, if you're a Gith, you're going to get similar ability there. And Detect Thoughts can be good too, but this does require your concentration to be held. It does last until long rest, so you can hold this pretty much indefinitely until your concentrations break. I think that the Bard is kind of a better version of this. The Knowledge Domain is not terrible. I just think that you don't get any unique spells from your domain, and the skills that you do get are accessible from elsewhere. And a lot of the spells, like Speak of the Dead, Animal Speaking, are things that you can get from potions and amulets really early. So this one I might just say is B tier. It just feels like it's missing something to make it as good as some of the rest of them here. And finally, we got the War Domain. Heavy Armor proficiency. You get Shield of Faith and Divine Favor. The best single level dip prior to patch 8 was actually the War Domain. Because of the War Priest, you get 3 bonus action attacks per long rest, which is really good because this empowers other classes. So you could take something like the Fighter. Previously, you could just go with your 3 attacks and bonus action attack. Boom. If you got Great Weapon Master, probably not as good to select that, but this is just useful and reliable. At level 2, you get a really nice ability with the Guided Strike, using your Channel Divinity to give a +10 to your attack roll. If you're attacking, that's good. But if not, there's better options. We also get the Spiritual Weapon there, which is good. Spiritual Weapon is not like, it's something you normally get from a cleric, but it's one of the most useful cleric spells. Same with Spirit Guardian, so you get 2 of the most powerful cleric spells. I don't like getting the same ones that overlap, but it's obviously inevitability. Level 6 actually gives us a nice bonus, kind of similar to how the light cleric gets to share their ability with the teammates. You get the War God's Blessing on your enemy or your allies, so you can use your Channel Divinity to add a +10 to their attack roll, which is really nice. Once we continue on, you get Stone Skin, which is meh, and then Freedom of Movement, so a couple more spells. It's all right. You get the Divine Strike Weapon, which adds 1d8 piercing damage, kind of funny. And level 9 gives us the Flame Strike and Hold Monster, which Hold Monster is a really good spell. These War Priest charges are our most beneficial resource here, but they're best utilized at just a single level dip, I'll be honest. Going further with this class, you get the Divine Strike with extra piercing damage, which can be okay at best. It doesn't really give much as the other classes do later on in the game, so I do have to take that into consideration. So it's not going in the S tier. I'm going to put it around the A tier. I actually think the Life Domain might be a little bit better in certain instances. Yeah, they probably pretty interchangeable because the War Domain is a great single level dip. Death Domain obviously being introduced in patch 8, it's great early game, good mid game too, and even into the end game you got some great multi-class abilities. Even a Cloud Kill and you can summon zombies in. But the absolute 2 best will be the Tempest Domain and the Light Domain. Light Domain, if you're going pure cleric, take the Light Domain up to 11, 12. The Tempest Domain is good with multi-classes to get the Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt spell. I do have builds on that on my channel if you want to see, but if you're going full builds, the Light Domain is probably a little bit better. And if you're going full builds, yeah, we'll go with that. But if you're multi-classing is probably like this. So let me know your thoughts on the best cleric subclasses in Baldur's Gate 3. Hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. I hope you have a great day. We'll catch y'all in the next video.